All right, so it's official. We've begun. So welcome to Garlic 101. And I'm Dan Breesborough. I'm part of Tourne-Sol Co-operative Farm. This is the full crew. This is the full 2016 or maybe 2018 crew, actually. This is me on the far left. We don't have we're getting a new picture this week, so we'll have the new crew probably my next workshop. But yeah, so with the Tourne-Sol Farm, we're 7 co-op members and a crew of about 13 other people, so 20 people total who run this farm. And we're situated west of Montreal in Les Cèdres, Quebec. And this is a farm from a bird's eye view. And we grow vegetables. We have 500 weekly CSA baskets or vegetable baskets that people pick up every week. And we're also seed growers. And so we have an online store, and you may have seen our seeds in health food stores or nurseries across Quebec and throughout the rest of Canada, but mostly in Quebec. But in addition to this, we also grow a bunch of garlic. And we grow 25,000 bulbs of garlic on about half an acre. And we've been growing garlic from the beginning. And there was a time where garlic was, maybe a third or a quarter of our sales. But the rest of the business, especially the seeds, have really grown. So garlic is a smaller crop, but we're still growing a lot of it. And it's one of my deep passions to talk about garlic. And I'm excited to be talking about garlic here. And so what I have on today's menu is, so it's an intro to garlic. And we're going to talk about when do you plant garlic? And then we'll talk about how to plant garlic, essentially cracking, planting, mulching. I'm going to go through those steps. And then I'll talk about 4 different types of garlic out there. There's about 10 main different types of garlic. I'm going to talk about 4 of them. And then we'll have some time for questions. So I'm hoping to get through the presentation in about 20-25 minutes, so that there's about 20 minutes or so for you to ask questions. And you can always ask questions throughout the presentation. I'm going to try to make it so I can see the chat. Yeah, so please, if you have questions, type away in the chat, and I will either answer right away or answer a little bit later, but I will try to get to all the questions today. So let's talk about when to plant your garlic. So the easy answer is October 15th. There's a lot of different ways to answer this question, but I'm just going to simplify it to October 15th. And so what I will say is that garlic is best planted in the fall, and you put it in the ground, it survives through the winter, and then it comes up in the spring, and then you can harvest it near the end of July, your garlic. Some people do plant garlic in the spring, and there's some varieties that do a little bit better in the spring. You're just never going to get the same results from spring planted garlic as you will from fall planted garlic. So I just recommend that you plant garlic in the fall. Now the fall is long, and I think ultimately you've got to get your garlic in the ground before the ground freezes really hard. And I know some people who've naturally plant their garlic even kind of in mid-December without problem, but that's not guaranteed. And I know a lot of you are in different areas, so some of you have colder falls than others. But I like to aim for October 15th, because that means that I know I get the garlic into the ground before it starts getting really cold, before the ground's going to be frozen, and it lets the garlic start to grow some roots to get established, which is going to help it get through the winter. You can plant earlier than October 15th, but I wouldn't plant like maybe 1 or 2 weeks earlier, but I would plant much earlier than that. Like early mid-September can be on the early side. And the challenge you might have is your garlic can start to grow. You'll see a lot of top growth, and it's more difficult. So just go. So October 15th. That's my answer. And now what that means is, if you know you're going to plant on October 15th, it means that at that point you want to have your beds planted or prepped by that point. And so if it's October 15th, maybe think back. So it depends what kind of, we're farming, so we use tractors and that kind of stuff. If you're in a backyard garden, you have different tools at your disposal, different area. But you probably want to prepare your beds sometime between mid-October and the end of October so that they're ready to plant come mid-October. And you probably want to choose a nice sunny day to plant your garlic. So just having your beds prepped in advance will give you that heads up. And so what preparation means is probably removing whatever's there before. Maybe it was tomatoes, maybe flowers, removing what was there before, spreading some manure, mixing it into the topsoil, or it could be compost also, but it can be manure. This stuff's going to be in the ground for a long time, so you don't have to worry about contamination from manure in the fall crops. As if it was like a green, that'd be different. You don't have to worry about manure so much if you're planting garlic in the fall. So prepare your beds, and then you're ready to plant. Jean-Raymond says mid-October is your rule of thumb. That's a good rule of thumb. Some say to wait after the full moon unless it's very late in October. I'm not going to dispute that, but that's not something I specifically look for. For us, what we really look for is nice planting conditions. If the ground is easy to work, that's what we love. I have planted a lot of garlic in the mud, but I much prefer planting it in dry, perfect conditions. So that's what we look for. Richard says, we'll touch on how to harvest and preserve it. In the main presentation, I'm not going to talk a lot about that, but in the questions, you are welcome to ask those kinds of questions and I will answer them. And part of the reason I'm not going to get into too much about the harvesting at this point is that right now, most of you have already harvested your garlic and you're thinking about if you grow garlic. And the next thing is really the planting of garlic. And I'm going to give another workshop sometime next year. We'll talk more about harvesting, likely. So that's I'm focusing today on the planting. So the next step is to crack your garlic. And so here's some garlic. I got some garlic also here. Your garlic is made up with a bunch of little cloves that have different sizes. And you want to, so the clove, so just garlic terminology, you have the full bulb, the head of garlic, and then inside is a bunch of little cloves. Those are little sections that you take apart. Each clove is what you plant. That's potential plant for next year. Some garlic, like this is a porcelain garlic, kind of like the variety music or German Jimmy. These garlics have 4 big cloves, usually maybe 5 big cloves, so you can have potential of 4 or 5 plants. This is a rocambole garlic, and these can have 6 to 10 cloves, so potential of 6 to 10 plants. So you're going to separate them, and so it can be, you put a lot of force into it. Get your friends, if you're doing a lot of garlic, get your friends together, and you crack all together. And then you wind up with a bunch of cloves. Now, in the case of a porcelain like this, they're all going to be big cloves. In the case of a rocambole like this, there will be some smaller cloves in addition to the medium and big ones. So in that case, what we actually do is we separate out the smaller cloves and we're going to put them in a little container beside, and we keep the medium and big cloves to plant. And if we have enough with the medium and big cloves to plant the garlic that we need, that's what we do, and then you can eat the small ones. And if you run out of planting stock, then you can plant the small ones. So, so that's something that we do. So I'm going to show a little garlic cracking technique. And let's see, can I pause this? Hopefully you see me in big here. And so what garlic cracking looks like is you got a bulb. This is a bulb that I accidentally pierced when I was harvesting. So I thought I kind of pulled up some skins just to clean it up. And I thought this would be a good example. So to crack garlic, essentially, you're putting your thumb against the stem, and then you're going to just peel it open and separate these cloves. And then you wind up with the stem, which you can toss in your compost. And you've got a bunch of cloves. Now, with the clove, okay, so I just did something that I want to show you. You want to not really damage the bottom part. This is when you're going to grow it next year. This is where the roots are going to come, and this is where the sprout's going to come out, the leaves. And you need that basal plate to be intact for it to grow. So when I crack the garlic, after I've cracked it, I look at it in my hands and I look to see if there's any damage. So in this case, this one's quite damaged, so I'm not going to toss that in, or anything that's diseased. If there was a lot of diseased cloves, I probably wouldn't keep that bulb at all. But if it's just a little bit of disease on one of them, I would pull that clove out and you can use the rest. And then so here, when I was separating this bulb here, the base, you can kind of see it split off. I might not, it's not that damaged, but I'm worried that it might not set roots. So in that case, if it doesn't have some of the basal plate, kind of like this, then I would, I would probably just eat this one. You know, each garlic is a potential plant, so you want to use that. So that's kind of a little bit the technique of cracking it. If some people, this is something that I was resistant to for a while, but over time we've adopted to the farm just because we have so much to crack, is take the bowl, the whole bowl, turn it upside down, put it on a hard surface, and then push down, and it'll push the stem up, and then you can just separate out the cloves. So that's another technique. So I'm going to resume the slides, and so we're going out to the garlic. We could see, you know, in that big grape bin, that's the good planting stock. And then the two small little wicker baskets is the smaller cloves that we're holding on to in case we need them. And if we don't need them, we're just going to eat them. Or something that you can do is you can also take a bunch of those small cloves and you can plant them close together in one spot. And you wind up with a bunch of little garlic plants that grow from one place, and you could harvest them to eat them immature, like a green onion. When the garlic is quite young, it's very tender, you can eat the whole thing. So that's something you could do if you want to have, you know, garlic early in the season that's fresh from your garden, if you don't have any left over. So that's something that you could plant at this point. So next up is planting your garlic. When you plant your garlic, it's essentially, you know, digging a hole, pushing a garlic into it, and then planting it. So how deep? So it depends on the size of the clove. And what I look at, and this is actually a rule of thumb that I also use for seeds, and I'm looking for about 3 times the height of the garlic. So you know, a clove, 3 times the height of the clove. So this clove here, which is like 1.5 inches, I would be happy to put it 4.5 inches deep. That's the bottom of the garlic clove. So about 3 inches above it, and then the clove, and then, you know, underneath it. If it's a really big garlic, you might even be able to get it deep, like 4 to 5, maybe even 6 inches deep. But that starts to be a bit on the heavy side. If it's a really big clove, there might be able to get out still. If it's a smaller clove, you definitely don't want to go that deep because it just won't have enough energy to make it out. So we open, you know, you put your trowel in, or if, you know, if it's not too wet, this is a wet picture. If it's not too wet, you can kind of push your fingers in. And when you're planting, you want to plant the garlic so that the roots are facing down. Now, if you plant it upside down, the garlic, in many cases with the freeze and thaw, will be able to flip itself right side up. But some cases, it kind of winds up growing upside down, and the stem will kind of loop and have a funny shaped garlic. So I just try to plant it right side up immediately. And so you can kind of move it along with the bucket full of garlic. And so here are 2 people planting garlic side by side. And you can see that long white string that we have. That's a measuring tape, a long measuring tape. And we're planting. So here we're planting 3 rows, and we're planting it you know, every 6 inches. And so this is kind of what that looks like. So we have different garlic beds. We plant 3 rows, and there's about 2 feet, 24 inches between the beds. Within the bed, we plant the rows about 12 to 15 inches apart. And in the row, we plant the bulbs about 6 inches apart. Now, you can fit garlic closer than that, but the more space you give your garlic, the bigger your garlic is going to be the next year. And so I would not recommend going any tighter than this. So 12 inches between rows and 6 inches in the row. And if you could go to 15 inches between row, you'll even see a bigger garlic. So that's kind of the spacing that we use. And some more planting right here. And then the next thing to do is to mulch your garlic. So on our farm, what that looks like is we spread out a bunch of hay bales and we put a straw bale every 15 feet of bed, and then we break them open and we have a mulched garlic field. Now, if you were all commercial growers, there's a discussion we could have about whether to mulch or not to mulch, because mulching, it creates its cost of having the material. There's a lot of work of spreading out, and then also the garlic can have a hard time piercing through it in the spring. But in a home garden context or a small garden context, mulch your garlic. It really will produce better garlic. What mulching does is, it keeps the ground frozen during the winter. So once the garlic is planted, it freezes over. You want it to stay frozen throughout the whole winter, and then the next spring only then to thaw out. Because when there's a freeze and thaw cycle in the winter, then the garlic bulbs can be kind of pushed out of the ground. And if they're on the surface and they get a hard frost, there is a good chance that they get destroyed. So your mulch will help your ground stay frozen underneath. Also, the mulch is going to keep moisture the next year, so you don't have to water as much, and it'll reduce weed control or the amount of weeds that you're going to have. So those are all really great benefits from the mulch in a home garden context. And so you should mulch your garlic. Now, if you have access to straw, that works well, but you can also use leaves from deciduous trees, not from evergreens, but from deciduous trees, either in your backyard or when people start putting them on the side of the road, you drive around and take other people's leaves and bring them home. And you can mulch your garlic with that, either straight up, or you can mow the leaves to make them into small little pieces, and then you could mulch your garlic with that. Now in the spring, you do got to make sure that the garlic pierces through the mulch. So once the ground starts to thaw out, check regularly. And if the garlic's coming up, give it a little bit of space to come up. And then afterwards, once it's up, you can kind of reclose the mulch back over it. But mulch really makes a difference for garlic. And with that, your garlic is planted. So I'm going to now go through 4 different types of garlic, because not all garlic is the same. And I would say but there is 10. So if you go to seed catalogs, you can find hundreds of different types of garlic, or different varieties of garlic. However, garlic is not propagated through seeds, it's propagated through cloves. And so most garlic is clones of other plants. They don't even easily produce seeds anymore. 1 second, I'm losing my voice here. So the garlic varieties can be broken down into 10 different types of garlic, and these are called horticultural groups. And the horticultural groups are pretty similar within the group, and they're a little bit different one from the other. So I'm going to explain 4 of the horticultural groups that grow really well in Quebec. There's others out there that do okay, but these are the ones that do the best in a Quebec winter, which is why I'm presenting them. And because, thinking about the winters, that we have a really cold winter with a lot of snow, and it's long. And this is different than some other climates. Garlic grows anywhere in the world, but different horticultural groups grow better in other areas. So some garlic, like artichoke garlic, which I'm not going to explain, is a soft neck garlic, can grow huge in a more southern climate. In our climates, it doesn't grow to the same size as some of the other garlics. So the 4 types of garlics I'm talking about here all have hard necks, which means they have a garlic scape, a flower at the top. Let's go into them. So the first one, this is porcelain garlic. If you grow music garlic, music is a porcelain garlic. And this is the one that's the most common if you go to a farmer's market, or if you see local Quebec garlic or local Canadian garlic, most likely it's a porcelain garlic. And it's called a porcelain because, it's really white, sometimes a little bit of color on it, but it's pretty white skin on the outside. This has 3 to 5 fairly big cloves per bulb. This is the most forgiving of garlic. So it's a good starter garlic if you've never grown it. The cloves are so big that there's a lot of energy that it's going to do well in at least okay in almost any conditions. So it's a good starter garlic. Now, In terms of flavors, this one, so there's different things that differentiate the garlics. One is the appearance, another one is going to be the flavor, and another one is the storage. So this garlic here is, if you eat it raw, it's a very hot, spicy garlic, very, very strong garlic. When you cook it, that heat dissipates and it has a good enough taste. However, if you do a taste test compared to the next couple garlics, you'll find that this one is the blanding of the garlic tasting of these 4 garlics. Now, that's not to say it tastes bad. It's just that when you do a comparison, you're going to see that these next ones coming up have more flavor. Not as much heat when they're raw. When it's raw, this one, when you bite into it, it bites back right away and you notice it immediately. But in terms of flavor, when you cook it, especially when you roast it, this one is you know, it's tasty, but it's not as delicious as some of the ones I'm about to say. In terms of storage, this garlic usually can store up until May or June the next year. We often have clients in mid-July who are eating the last of their garlic before they get their new garlic from us. But at that point, there's probably starting to be a green sprout in the middle of it, and it's a little bit, the bulbs are a little bit smaller, but they're still tasty. So this is a porcelain garlic. The next one is the rocambole garlic. So rocambole garlic, this is my favorite garlic. And this has 7 to 10 cloves, which means, and so it's, what that means is that one garlic bulb is going to go a lot further than a porcelain. With this, if it's 3 to 5 garlic cloves, let's say it's 4 on average, that means you got to hold 25% of your bulbs back to plant the same amount the next year. Whereas with the rocambole, you can keep 1/7, 1/8 of your crop back to replant, and so just you don't need as much garlic to replant. Now it has a lot more color. You can see that right away. You know, it's a little bit of purplish on it. And this garlic, this has a medium level of heat when you bite into it raw. Not as much as the porcelain. Definitely distinctive heat, but not as strong as the porcelain. However, when you cook it, when you roast this garlic, this has the deepest garlic flavor. This is the tastiest one. And that's one of the reasons I love this. I love the appearance of it and I love the flavor. So the rocambole are the most flavorful of the garlics. Now, they also have a skin that on the outside of the cloves that's much easier to peel. And that means 2 things. One is it's easy to prep it to cook, but also it dries a little quicker than other garlics. So it'll usually store until more April or May. It can go until June, but that's the long for it. But you just store April till May, the rocambole garlics. So that's the second type of garlic. The third is the purple striped garlic. And purple striped garlic, this one has a lot of things comparable to the rocambole. You know, it's about 7 to 10 cloves, and it's a medium heat, but and it does have more flavor than the porcelain when you cook it. But with this one, the purple stripe, the flavor gets better with age. So the longer into the winter you go, the sweeter the bulb gets, or the sweeter the garlic. Now, it's still garlic. It's not candy. Or some of you might think garlic is candy, but so this one gets a sweeter flavor, whereas the rocamboles are more savory, still within a garlic flavor. And the purple stripe will store longer than the rocambole, but not quite as much as the porcelain. However, these don't tend to get as big. Like the porcelains get probably the biggest. The rocamboles are a bit smaller. And the purple stripe is kind of a medium-sized garlic compared to the others. Not a small garlic, but doesn't tend to get quite as big as the others. Now, the fourth garlic I'm going to present is the marbled purple stripe. And the marbled purple stripe, this is, so this specific one is called Siberian that we have here. And the marbled purple stripe garlic, this one has 5 to 7 cloves. So they're big fat cloves, kind of comparable to the porcelain, and it kind of gets almost to the size of porcelain garlic. And this garlic is almost as hot as a porcelain, but not quite. And in terms of flavor, It's an interesting one because I find the marble purple stripe is the most variable in time of year. In function of the year that you have. And I'm not even sure what about the year makes a difference, if it's the early spring, if it's a drought or what. But when I do a taste test, some years the marble purple stripe come out being comparable in flavor to the porcelains, and other times they're the most flavorful garlic of all, even more than the rocamboles. And that's something that has really surprised me about this one, is it seems to really respond to the environment a lot more than the other garlics. So this is one that I'm always really excited to see what the crop is going to be like. I haven't eaten any this year, so I'm not sure what it's like. But this is probably the second easiest garlic to grow after the porcelain, because it also has big fat cloves. And it's what the advantage over the porcelain is that it tends to have more flavor than the porcelain. But as I was saying, it depends on the year. So this wraps up kind of the presentation part. I guess I should say what's next. So now we've gone through this, what do you do next? So the first thing to do is decide where you're going to plant your garlic. Go and look at your bed. Somebody in the chat mentioned that potato beds are great to use after their harvest. But go look where you can plant your garlic, thinking about what's going to be empty near the end of September and that you'll be able to plant for mid-October. Prepare those garlic beds in mid-September, and that's doing that work in advance will mean that when it's planting time, you just got to go plant and you're going to be happy. In terms of mulching, you can wait to mulch after you planted a week or two, even a month, but you want to get that garlic planted in October as much as possible. If you miss that mid-October, as long as you get it in between deep frost, you should have success, but getting it for mid-October will make you happier. And then you need to get some garlic. So if you already have garlic, use your own garlic. If you don't have garlic, there's a number of different great garlic people in Quebec. We have an online store, so I'm just mentioning that. And we are taking garlic orders right now. We just finished a harvest last year. It's a great crop. It's one of our biggest in a few years. And we'll be shipping garlic we're going to be shipping garlic. So we're taking orders now, and we'll be shipping garlic near the end of August, early September, so you have it in time to plant. Yeah, so that's us. And you can, our website is tourne-sol.qc.ca. If you just type in tourne-sol.qc.ca or Tourne-Sol Garlic, you should find us through the internet. Or if you just like the emails that you receive from us, we mention garlic and our website too. So I also aim to have gardening workshops every month. And so that's what today is. Today is one of my monthly garlic workshops, not garlic, gardening workshops on all kinds of topics. What I'm going to be talking about next month, here it says 20th of August, that's the wrong date, it's 20th of September. So 20th of September, is that right? Yeah, which is a Tuesday at 2 p.m., just like right now. I'm going to give the next workshop I'm giving called the Chili Fiesta. And so generally, I try to time these workshops in function of when it's time to plant. It's a bit late to plant your hot peppers, but I'm going to explore the whole world of hot peppers and a bit sweet peppers too in this, and the different families and groups and how you can use them. So we'll talk about that next month. And so if you see on our social media or you're on our email list, you will get information about that, and you can sign up for it when you see it. And so thank you so much. And let's do some questions. So I'm going to stop sharing this, and I'm going to go here, and I see there's already some questions popping up. So I'm going to get that up here, and let's see what I've missed. So Jean-Raymond says, can I say a bit about the amendment to our soil? Lots of compost needed. Garlic is a crop that's a medium to heavy feeder, so it really appreciates being fertilized, and it really does like quite a bit of nitrogen. That's going to have a really big impact on the size. So if you can get composted animal manure or like chicken manure, that's something, or like compost chicken manure, like Actisol or something, that's going to be really great. A vegetable-based compost probably isn't quite rich enough for that. And prepare it add it into the soil as you're planting, and that'll be fine the next year. Kristen says, who are my favorite seed garlic producers in Quebec? Oh, well, I guess we are our favorite. There's, I'm not totally sure who is selling a lot of seed garlic these days. If you're looking just for a porcelain, you can find it from a lot of places. There's the Association à Québec that has, so the Quebec Garlic Growers Association, you can find a lot of lists of different garlic growers who sell seed garlic. Most of it's going to be porcelain, like a music garlic. Richard asked about touching on the drying process. Okay, so so right now we've talked about planting garlic. So planting mid-October, garlic gets through the winter. The next year it emerges, and then you harvest it at the end of July. And what garlic needs to do is it goes through a process called curing, which sometimes people call drying, but it's not just drying. What curing does is in your garlic, let's see, got one right here. In the garlic, what's going to happen is the stem is going to seal, and that's going to keep all the garlic goodness in here and keep any kind of disease out. So that's what curing does. It also kind of dries some of the wrappers up, and keeps traps the moisture in, and there's not a lot of moisture on the outside, so it won't rot or mold easily. Now, to do that, there's essentially you need to put it into a dryish area for 2 to 6 weeks, and the way and that could be it could be a garage, on your porch, it could be in your house. But generally, you take your garlic, leaving it on the stem. So if you have large volumes, you might cut it down. But if you're on a smaller scale, I would recommend keeping most of the stem. Maybe you cut it down to 18 inches, but the more of the stem that you can keep, the better quality garlic that you're going to have. And so you can bunch the garlic, in 10, 15 bunches, tie them up. Maybe you take a long string, tie up both sides. You can hang it on hooks or some kind of, beam or a rafter, and just let it sit there out of the rain. Sunlight's okay, but out of the rain for a few weeks. And you'll see it's going to start to dry down. And you'll know it's ready. There's a couple different ways to know it's ready, but one is if you cut the stem off and then you look inside. So if that little hole is all juicy and green, your garlic is not ready to be cut down. If it's kind of looks like styrofoam a little bit and soft, you can probably cut the garlic down at that point. And at that point, it should be dry and you can clean it, and your garlic is ready to store. Now, one thing, especially for porcelains, for rocamboles, that'll probably take 2 to 4 weeks. Porcelains sometimes, they still have a lot of moisture in the skin, even once the neck is sealed. And if you keep them in an area that's a bit moist, they'll start to get a black mold on the outside of it, just from the ambient air. It's not a specific garlic disease, it's just black mold that'll appear on it. So if you're not going to get them into a dry area after you finish drying them, you're going to want to cure the garlic for a couple more weeks to get that outside skin even drier than it is. So I hope that helps. I don't know if you have a specific other question, but I hope that helps. Okay, so Denise asked, would I recommend coffee grounds? I guess you're talking about for fertility. I'm not sure really what the nutrient composition of coffee grounds is. It's a bit acidic, so I'm going to pass on that. Jean-Raymond said rocambole garlic did well for you this year. You grow Merino and Capelli. I don't know those varieties, but your porcelain rotted. Do you have any ideas? What can cause garlic to rot on the ground? So something I didn't really talk about, but maybe I should have talked a bit more about, is when you're buying garlic, you should pay attention that you're getting garlic that's intended to be seed, and that people know how to take care of it, and that it doesn't have disease. Because when you buy garlic that has disease and you plant it in your ground, you're bringing that disease into the ground. So garlic has a number of fungal and bacterial diseases, and there's also something called a stem nematode, or stem and root nematode. And these things can make your garlic rot. So if your garlic rots in the ground, it's likely that you have a disease that's either on the garlic or in your soil. And so if this garlic that you bought in recently, there's a good chance that the garlic, if all your garlic of a specific type rots, it's probably a disease that's associated with that. And that's a tough thing. So if you have a lot of garlic that rots like that, you shouldn't keep any of that garlic for seed. And you should pay attention to the other garlic because those diseases can travel. You should also make sure you don't grow garlic in the same location for 4 to 6 more years. So you should rotate it to somewhere else in your garden. That's pretty important if you have had garlic disease. So if you're buying garlic, if you go to a garlic festival and you buy garlic, or if you go to a farmer's market and you're buying garlic, you should ask if this is a good garlic for seed stock. And if somebody's not really confident or wonders why, like if you can't get a good answer about that, you probably shouldn't plant this garlic. So it's not quite the answer. I guess it's kind of a roundabout way of answering your question. So that's if your garlic really did rot, that's what I would think, is that you have some diseases. Catherine says, is there a roquefort variety I would recommend suitable for a first-time planter if the priority is flavor? So all the roqueforts are great tasting. One that we have, we offer 3 roqueforts. One that we have is called Quebec. That's probably not the original name. I think it's somebody that we got it from, gave it that name, and we grow that roquefort. And it's a little bit bigger than the others. So that's what I would recommend for beginners. Yeah, so if there are more questions, please type them up. We're getting close to the end of we have about 5 more minutes if you wanted to. Mitsuru said full sun is better than shady area. Oh yeah, I should definitely say that. Yes, garlic likes sun. You should plant it in full sun. It's not a crop that really tolerates much shade. So, you want to have something that has exposure during most of the day. So that's a good question. Thank you for mentioning that. All right, any more questions? Because otherwise I will wrap it up. I'm giving the same workshop in about 10 minutes in French. Can I plant in containers? So you can plant in containers. However, there's something you need to realize is that when garlic is in the ground, so this is not in a container, just in the ground, it's underground, and the frost comes gradually to garlic and it freezes gradually, and it won't freeze as deep as at the surface. Now, when you plant in a container, the frost can come in from the side much quicker and can freeze pretty deep. So you have 2 choices. One is you could bring your containers into an area that's a little bit warmer, but still cold, or you could wrap leaves or a blanket or insulate it from the outside to just reduce that harsh freezing. So that's the limiting factor, is that you have to make sure that the garlic doesn't freeze too quick and too deep. All right. So on that question, I'm going to say thank you so much for joining me. And if you've never planted garlic, I wish you a great first time. And if you have planted garlic, I wish you a great planting and a great harvest next year. So take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in a month at the next workshop for the Chili Fiesta. Have a great day.